right, and we are live. Without further ado, welcome to the show. My name is Tony, your host here on the Endless Report. As always, just me today. No event or anything, unfortunately, but hopefully he'll be back with us next week. But we don't have too big of a news week this week, unfortunately, either. So we're gonna keep it kind of on a shorter show this week. I'm gonna get you all the updates of everything I've seen in the gaming sphere here this week and everything that's going on. But unfortunately, nothing too crazy. Actually, we do have some breaking news for the first time here on the podcast. We did get a story that I dropped, I want to say about 20, 30 minutes before I even started the show here. And this is actually another unfortunate one, but I do want to go right off the presses here with this one to start us off. So unfortunately, to start off the show today, we do have a delay here. We may have talked about this on the show before. Hogwarts Legacy, the new Harry Potter game that was scheduled for this holiday season. I don't think we ever got an original date on this. We just heard holiday 2022. We were waiting on a release date there, and unfortunately, it is one of those casualties of these 2023 delays that we've been seeing throughout the year. So we got a new date here. Not too bad, though. It's February 2023, so that's a pretty clear indication here. This game is not too far out here. I'm going to zoom in here. This is where I saw it actually on my cell phone. I saw this right on Twitter. But thank you to IGN here, as always, for getting us this in a nice article format. But as you can see here, we have this tweet right from Hogwarts Legacy here, which says the game will be launching on February 10th of 2023. So not too far out, obviously. Not too many more months here in the year. We didn't have a release date yet. So it does make sense that we see the delay here. If it was, slated for later this year, November, December, you probably would have heard that by now. That being said, it is one of those cases here where developers are really keeping release dates close to their chest when they can. It's very unpredictable to nail down the exact time of release on a game, especially these days with everything that's been going on and the changes in the industry. But unfortunately, we're not going to get it as soon as we thought. But then again, this was one of those games where I think at least alongside God of War, which we'll talk about later, which is still coming out, this month actually, or September rather, believe it or not. One of those games where we really weren't sure where there was going to be like a last minute, like God of War, dropping a last minute release date, or we were going to get one of these delays. So that being said, we did get one of those delays. Again, this was kind of dropped right on my docket before we started the show here. So a little kind of want to just insert this here right at the beginning of the show, a little out of place, but I did want to note this. It was some fresh news this week. Unfortunately, a delay, not the best news to start the show off. But you know what? I like to get the bad news out of the way first and go on to some of the other stories as we go through here. So that's, I wanted to knock that right out of the way and get that going. We also do have some other kind of smaller stories from this week. We did get some releases, some smaller games. I believe some Nintendo Switch games, some PC games. As always, every week you're getting a few smaller releases, but we did get Spider-Man Remastered. So I did talk about this a bit on the show before, as I'm a fan of the game on PlayStation, but we got a PC release for the Spider-Man game here, and I do want to pull that up. We did get some PC gameplay here, some reviews, things like that. Get a little audio here. I'm going to cut that off real quick, get a little interference on my end. Sorry about that. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about this. All right, and we are back. I'm sorry about that, everybody. I'm not sure exactly what happened there. I was here doing mid sentence here, and everything kind of cut out. I saw the video feed went down, so we got that all hooked back up here. I'm hoping you're hearing me again. I think I'm gonna see. Yeah, I see myself through the stream here, so not sure exactly what just happened there, but sorry for the delay. Sorry for that little hiccup in the stream. We are back here. So what I was getting into there, I was just talking about briefly the new PC release for Spider-Man. So I had some gameplay running up here in the background. Again, not sure what happened there, why that got cut off, but we're back in action here. No worries there. And yeah, and really, again, nothing new here on news here. It just did get released this week, and I have been talking about it a bit on the show, so I thought I'd bring it up again. We did get some preliminary responses from Digital Foundry, who's always famous for doing the tech kind of breakdowns of a lot of these new releases, especially when a game like this comes from a console to a new PC only release for the first time. So looking forward to seeing all the tech breakdowns and everything that's going on here with lighting and ray tracing and all of the new features and things that we're seeing with resolution, dynamic resolution, widescreen, all that cool stuff on PC. I'm a bit of a tech nerd when it comes to the software implementations and all these new features that they're adding in terms of how they're gonna implement these new graphics, physics, all this stuff that goes into the PC release here, and how that differs, from the limits that you get on a console. And seeing kind of go wild here on PC is pretty cool. I have noted in the past, I'm very much looking forward to acquiring a Steam Deck myself, and this game did get a full-on Steam Deck release, with full support from Valve and all the likes there. It even got some new drivers from NVIDIA. NVIDIA released some new drivers before this game's release, as they often do when there's a big PC release. But there was some needed ones here, so they released that as well this week, and you can pick that up if you have a GeForce graphics card. But I'm probably going to wait on this one. Again, I do play on PC from time to time, but I think I'm going to wait on that Steam Deck. This is going to be a great game to take on the go for sure, a game that I can kind of just mess around with whenever I want. And that's really it. Just another release this week. We had a delay. We had a notable release as well. So I kind of wanted to start the show off there, just kind of going through these. Again, nothing too crazy there. I just wanted to show that gameplay in the background really briefly. But we do have some more news actually on Call of Duty of all things here. So I'm going to pull this article up again from IGN. Shout out to them at IGN here for this story. But we did get some news directly from Activision and Call of Duty about when they're going to showcase Modern Warfare 2, this upcoming game, next. So we did hear that we're getting a showcase in September. To scroll down, I'll give you some more details here. We're going to get a next generation, as they say here, I'll get this quotation. Quote, an era-defining franchise event showcasing the immediate future of Call of Duty, unquote. Again, a pretty dramatic statement to hear, to say that we're going to hear more about the new Call of Duty coming up this fall and maybe a little bit into next year. So to me, and as they kind of clarify here, but to me, that just sounds like some Modern Warfare multiplayer news, maybe some news on the new Warzone as well coming into 2023. And that's exactly what we got here. So again, as I read this article yesterday, I'm kind of giving you my train of thought because this is exactly how I thought it through. But right here, we had information on Modern Warfare 2, information on Warzone 2. Again, that's what I figured. But we also have information on the mobile version of Call of Duty Warzone. So that's very interesting to me. We've talked a bit about mobile gaming here on the show. And even on the channel, you may have seen our Pro Spotlight with Rafa, who talked about the mobile gaming industry. If you haven't, I really recommend going and checking that out. Rafa had some awesome insights and knowledge there on how all that is working. But I think this is a great point to mention here in terms of mobile gaming, that the mobile version of Warzone is something that they're expanding on and looking to develop. I'm not clear if there is a mobile version of Warzone yet, or if this is a new release. To be honest, I know about Call of Duty Mobile. I will have to admit I have a bit of a blind spot there when it comes to mobile gaming. That's something I actually do want to look up as I'm doing the show here, because I'm not sure we've seen Warzone in a a mobile format before. But I know this is something that we've seen with games like Fortnite, with games like Players Unknown Battlegrounds. Obviously, the Battle Royale space on mobile is there. And yeah, I'm looking up reports here. They are currently building it. So it's something that was stated earlier this year in March. This was not something I caught earlier this year. So seeing this now, but back in March of this year, they were looking for a lot of new job postings in order to make Warzone mobile. So according to this, again, I'm not exactly sure when this plans on releasing, but it looks like we're going to find out in that September event here. So revealing more on that list as I'm reading there, we do see, again, a reveal on Modern Warfare 2's multiplayer, which we kind of figured there. And we're going to get some live streamers playing the game live, which would be cool to see some gameplay. And some unannounced information and surprises is the last bullet point there. So again, we'll have to wait and see what's going on there. Very excited to see more of that Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 gameplay. We did get some map reveals, I believe, this week as well. So I'm not sure exactly what we're going to have in that multiplayer beta there, but they did confirm that after this event, and just to confirm, this event is September 16th and 17th. I'm actually going to pull this up here to show this off real quick, because this being said, excuse me, let me pull this link up here, being a little finicky. Here we go. So again, I believe the event is on September 15th, rather, and we're going to get this open beta here. So here's that graphic that I was trying to pull up. On 16th and 17th, starting off with the early access on PlayStation. So I'm assuming there, if you pre-order the game, you can get early access there to the beta. But if not, You're going to get there on September 18th and 20th, open access to everyone. And then again, coming back around to Xbox and PC on the next weekend, September 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, 26th. So we're seeing there again, Call of Duty's kind of in full swing. We kind of use this every year. We get our event in the summer, usually late summer in recent years, and then we get the multiplayer beta, and a few weeks later the game drops. So it's pretty much the same cycle here, according to this graphic. Again, not too much else to cover there. We're gonna have to wait and see for what's announced at this event. Of course, more details on this game this fall and Warzone, as we've said, but we may get some information on next year. We'll have to see. I know we reported on this next week. There is a Call of Duty 2023 project in the works. It is paid premium content, as they said in that release, if you will. So we'll have to take that, into consideration. Exactly what's going to go on next year, they have not publicly stated, so we're going to have to find that out. But we'll wait and see at that event if we have any more information on the future of Call of Duty. So again, a little bit of some more official announcements this week. We actually do have a bit more here before we wrap up. Again, I'm assuming it's gonna be a slightly shorter show this week, just because of the lack of crazy big news. That being said, we do have some more interesting stories here. I wanted to touch on this one very briefly, just because we've talked about Grand Theft Auto in the past few weeks on this show, and I do want to bring up a bit of some more Grand Theft Auto news. So we got two kind of stories here that tie in to the Grand Theft Auto series. This first one's a little unexpected. This comes way of GameStop here, who had some notes on Vince Gilligan. If you may know Vince Gilligan, the showrunner and the creator of Breaking Bad, and now, of course, Better Call Saul with that spinoff, was in the news this week because he was discussing in an article, I believe the original article was reported by NME, the music site, that I have frequented in some time in the past for music news and stuff of the like. So to see that is pretty interesting here with Vince Gilligan. But we did get some quotes here from this NME interview stating that while he's not much of a video game player, he was very interested in doing a Breaking Bad type video game, and in spite and rather. Excuse me here, I'm losing my train of thought here. He wanted to do this in the vein of Grand Theft Auto. So very interestingly here, he had actually talked with his team. Again, this is one of those articles where I'm not sure if this was a full official project, but there were reports here that he had talked with his team, and specifically on AMC and the showrunners of Breaking Bad, to see if they could do a Breaking Bad video game type spin-off project. So apparently he had asked his people on the show who owns Grand Theft Auto. So kind of a funny story here. He wasn't very aware of how, of Rockstar Games or how big the game series was, but kind of looking more into this and looking more into a Breaking Bad type of game, he thought it could make sense. He thought it could be really cool. But the more they did research this, they figured that it probably wouldn't be the most realistic venture at the time. That being said, I just thought it was a very cool idea and interesting article to bring up here. The writer, director of Breaking Bad here was very clear that he was interested in this idea. He thought it was very, very on the nose there with Grand Theft Auto series and having kind of, this show translated to video games. And I think a lot of, it's a conversation we have a lot on the show, that a lot of, media like TVs, like film, TV shows and film translate very well to video games. So this would have been an interesting project here. Again, probably not in the works at this point. I'm not sure we'll ever see anything like this, but with Better Call Saul being as big as it is, with Breaking Bad, keeping the cultural relevance it always has, it'll be interesting to see if anything ever kind of pops up around the idea of this IP. We did see here later in the article that Gilligan said he actually tried making a Breaking Bad VR game later on for PlayStation VR, but that did not go anywhere either. And he did not share any further details about that. So it remains to be seen if this is still something they're gunning for here, but it looks like that this has been, a bit of more of an active attempt to make a video game here, not just an idea, but, rather attempts here at trying, different formats, obviously Grand Theft Auto being that original format here in the article. But yeah, it's really not much else to say there other than that it's a pretty interesting story here to get these TV writers on board to create a game like this, with all the effort that's gone into the TV story to try to expand into another medium here. I think it's very fascinating. This is something that kind of came up in the past. Again, we love to talk about Bethesda here on the channel as well. With the Elder Scrolls series, back before Skyrim was made, I believe Bethesda was actually pitched to make a medieval Game of Thrones type Elder Scrolls game that would kind of take a break from the Elder Scrolls series and focus more on the more rustic dragons, vision of Game of Thrones. And it's kind of funny there, as you see, Skyrim does come out with dragons, with that Nordic kind of inspiration in a lot of ways, with Skyrim, of course, being in the northern region of Tamriel there. So obviously Bethesda, in a similar vein in that story, had an idea, to maybe incorporate, Game of Thrones is a big property there. But of course, that didn't work out as either. But you never know with things like this. These are always ideas that are shaken around, and maybe ideas like this, when it comes to films, or TV shows, often turn into video game ideas, maybe in a different form. I mean, I wonder if you get a game like Red Dead Redemption, or things of the like, without, old Western films and the Western genre being what it is today. I don't think you get Grand Theft Auto in the first place without things like Miami Vice and, that kind of those kind of, television programs with this kind of, subject matter. So it is kind of an interesting story there. I do love when you see gaming and, other mediums kind of have some little bit of crossover here. But as I said, we did have a little bit more on Grand Theft Auto there, so I didn't want to get too much into that anecdote, because the Grand Theft Auto news does not end here. Just because we did see more comments here from Take-Two. So if you've been following the show in the past few weeks, you may have seen that Take-Two has been commenting a bit more on the game after announcing that it's been in development a few months past. So we got originally that tweet, I want to say that was late last year, early this year, confirming that, yes, we are working on GTA 6. Like, please, please stop hounding us on Twitter. We promise we are creating this game, was kind of the consensus on the tweet there. One of the most shared tweets I'd seen the entire year, just in general, not just in the gaming sphere, but in the pop culture sphere. It was a tweet that really I saw, circling around social media when that came out. That being said, throughout the year here, we got more comments. Of course, we talked about it a few weeks past on the show about the shakeups at Rockstar Games, the changes in the way that they're handling crunch culture, just the general culture and the writing style of their games. They have newer writers, a newer team. The former creators of Grand Theft Auto have left the series. So there is a lot different and a lot, going on here with the new GTA 6, and a lot of questions of what's going to happen here. That being said, we have also been talking about the CEO's comments here on growth, expansion, and the future of the industry. And that being said, there was more to be said here on GTA 6. So, of course, CEO of Take-Two here, Strauss Zelnick, who was commented in the past, has clarified once again the development of GTA 6 is still well underway. So, again, not early development. They're not saying, close, to release, late development date. It's well underway. It's mid-development. Again, I'm kind of throwing a lot of other older headlines out here, but we did report as well a few weeks back that they've hired a lot of new people, and they're still hiring a lot of new people at the company. I believe over 75 job listings were posted just a few weeks ago. So this is very much an active development, as they said. I do want to reiterate here. But then the first quotable we get here in the article, I'm going to kind of go one by one here. From Zelnick here is, quote, Rockstar Games team is determined once again to set creative benchmarks for the series, our industry, and for all entertainment, just as the label has done with every one of their frontline releases. So again, kind of breaking this down, this was a whole article here based on basically that one initial statement and then some of his further comments. But the big catchphrase here is a benchmark, not just for the series, not just for gaming, but for all entertainment. And I would be the first to kind of jump in here and throw in, is this hyperbolic? Question that a bit, but I'm really not sure it is. Usually I kind of, take these, corporate statements with a grain of salt and kind of think about how they're stating things here. But, for better or worse, I can't really disagree that Grand Theft Auto 5 hasn't set a certain benchmark, at least in the past. Obviously, I'm not sitting here saying that Grand Theft Auto 5 was some, peak of gaming and there hasn't been anything on top of that. Of course not. There have been many different, various games over the past decade, or more that have, pushed boundaries, have changed things, have grown gaming into different areas and in different spheres. So, but of course, I'm not saying that. But that being said, Grand Theft Auto 5 really stands alone. I mean, we've talked about this many times on the show, and just in terms of profit, in terms of its longevity, in terms of its, it's really, just love that longevity there. That's its cultural standing with every generation. I mean, more and more kids grow up, want to play the new Grand Theft Auto and get Grand Theft Auto 5. Back in the day when new games were coming out, it'd be a new Grand Theft Auto, a new Call of Duty every few years or so. And even with Grand Theft Auto not being an annual release, it was something you expected down the line. I remember back Grand Theft Auto 4, when that game was out for a long time. That game was out for 5-6 years. We're thinking, wow, this game is out way too long. Whereas Grand Theft Auto 5, it was one of the longest game waits I could ever imagine at the time. That being said, once Grand Theft Auto 5 released a few years later, it was not for over double the time that we'd even talk about Grand Theft Auto 6 here. So One of those things that we keep seeing over and over in the games industry here. The time between releases gets larger, these games get more expensive, and the bar keeps getting pushed. And with GTA in particular, I think we're going to see the bar get pushed in a very significant way here. What exactly that means, coming from the CEO, of course, he's going to say something like that. I'm inclined to believe it. Like as I said, what exactly that means, I'm not sure, but I am expecting a lot here. I'm expecting something different. I'm expecting something fresh. Given from what we've had from GTA 5 for a while, it's kind of, for lack of a better word, become the standard when it comes to open world kind of games here, where I don't expect much more because I'm not sure even what to expect here. It was 2013 when Grand Theft Auto 5 set this, standard here that not many other free, open world games really have ever met in that 10 years since. So I think we see Saints Row still releasing this fall. I'm definitely gonna have to check that out, the reboot of that series, as always, kind of being the main competitor in terms of, I couldn't even say competitor, maybe even inspiration, or I don't want to use the word knockoff, but kind of GTA-S type game. It's always been what it was. The first Saints Row was literally that. They kind of stated that we're trying to make a game like Grand Theft Auto. There was really nothing else out there like it at the time. It was really a genre-defining open world game. When it comes to open world gaming, there was none like GTA, in this exact state. Of course, you have games like Watch Dogs. I'm trying to think of other games that are, slight, open world chaos, shooting, driving type games that really hit that same itch that GTA does, but there's not many. And I do think that since, as I've been saying, it's been 10 years since this bar has really been set. I'm almost not sure what to expect here. I mean, we've had this conversation on the show before, so I don't want to be too redundant here. I've talked to this about this with Ben in the past, but things like being able to go into buildings, different physics systems. Obviously, I'm excited for the new plot line, the new protagonist, everything that goes along there. We heard it's a kind of a Bonnie and Clyde bank robbing story, so I'm curious to see how how that story is handled. Are there choices here? How are they going to expand on the bank robberies and the character switching and all these elements that played a large part in GTA 5? All that's very interesting to me. But on the technical side, again, I'm very, optimistic and, curious exactly what direction they're going to go in here. What can be accomplished? Do we expect things like destructibility, or I don't know, even more intense, car customization, physics, speed, things like that? I mean, we've seen the speed improvements in GTA 5 and with the higher loading, time, I should say shorter loading times, higher LOD distances, things you could see in the distance there. Everything's going to get a little bit better, over GTA 5. It's one of those things where, again, it's held in this high regard as this kind of standard. I'm curious to see what a large scale game, at this budget, at this type, can even look like. After Red Dead 2, I'm even more optimistic, what that's going to look like for GTA. Do we get that interactivity? Do we get, all these, micro details in these little management systems like in Red Dead, which I really do enjoy, all those small managements of your character. I'm all for that. I'm all for the immersion factor, and I'm very curious to see, how this goes. But I do believe, again, on that headline there, that it will set a new creative benchmark. I have to say, this is one of the first of those kind of just like up in the air statement type articles where I really, as much as there's not much concrete information there, I just kind of agree. So it's interesting to see there. Again, I could be totally wrong. I have not seen this game whatsoever yet. It could be a complete disappointment. Again, we have had a lot of large scale disappointments here in the past. So I'm keeping my expectations middle here. Not getting too excited, not getting too, pessimistic or cynical here, or not sure what's going to happen. I'm very optimistic here. I just want to, keep my keep my expectations level here and see what happens. But we're gonna move on from all that now and get on to some more interesting. It's something very interesting this week. Probably the biggest story of the week. Not necessarily involved in pop culture, gaming, topic news, but definitely in gaming business here once again. So I'm gonna bring this up here again. Thank you to IGN again for this article. We get a report here that Unity, a program we very much talk a lot about here at Endless, the game engine may be being acquired here. So we have heard news throughout the week. Again, I'm sure this deal is still in talks here. It's not exactly finalized. I've seen a few different articles about here throughout the stages this week. But we have got a news here. The mobile software company called AppLovin has offered to buy Unity for $17.5 billion. So really, really big number there. Probably one of the biggest acquisition numbers we've seen, period, in all of this acquisition news that we've covered over the past year or so. That being said, the mobile software developer AppLovin, I believe they're located here in Palo Alto, California. That's correct. Has put in an all-stock bid for Unity. So to kind of put some context here again, maybe even some that I don't have per se, just off the bat here. I think it's very interesting that a mobile gaming company is the one making this purchase. Again, it's AppLovin from Palo Alto, California. I'm not very, very, very familiar here with AppLovin's holdings and exactly with what they've owned before their offer to acquire Unity here. But as you can see through the report here, they've offered about $58 for each Unity share, which is about a premium of 18% on Unity's closing price as of this Monday. So again, to upcharge there, I shouldn't say upcharge. So to put a premium there of 18% on the current price that was again earlier this week when the market closed. So that could be fluctuating a bit, but around 18% of an increase there on the purchase, gives Unity that value, gives them that respect of saying, that they want to not only buy the company but buy it for a little more than it's worth on paper at the moment. Again, I'm not a stockbroker here. I do have a little bit of understanding, but I don't want to speak out of my wheelhouse here in terms of the finances of this deal. But I do think it's very, very interesting, and specifically for this mobile company, AppLovin, to make this investment. You've seen here from AppLovin's CEO, Adam Ferrugi. He says Unity is one of the world's leading platforms for helping creators turn their inspirations to real 3D content, which is just absolutely true. I mean, we see Unity not only evolving as a game engine for many various types of games, but also evolving into something that serves many industries. And that, we see it, going into VR for interactive experiences, which again, you can consider part of gaming as well, but you see it as well used for even virtual effects for things like films and other projects, visual projects. You see things for simulation purposes, for medical fields, for industrial fields, things where you need training. You see a lot of purposes here for software that could be made with Unity. Again, just having a virtual environment, even running certain non-manned type simulations in this Unity engine can be helpful for so many a variety of things. I mean, just thinking of the idea of using simulation for anything, it's probably something that could apply in some way in almost every industry here. So I think AppLovin, sees the future in this. At the moment, I am going to look up a bit of information here on AppLovin as I'm talking through here. It's a company that, again, we've talked about a lot of mobile gaming companies in the past. It's not one I've heard much about, but I am seeing here it was founded in 2012. I believe it operated and they said stealth mode here. I'm not exactly what that means. Kind of operated it down until 2014, but has been trading on the NASDAQ for quite some time now. And they're a very, very large company. I believe they have a yearly revenue of around 2.8 billion as of last year. So again, something to look into there. A very interesting purchase here. Again, a company I'm not very aware of. It looks like they are not an app development company, but rather a company that helps you, as an app developer, take your apps to the next level and build on top of a platform. So I believe that they have their own platform here and a few different products of how that goes. Again, not too much information on that company as well, but I think anyone acquiring Unity probably knows not to get mess too much with what Unity is and what it's all about. I don't think this is a move here that Unity is going to be limited to only on mobile devices or anything crazy like that. When you see certain acquisitions, trying to incorporate into the parent company, I don't think we're going to anything like that. It seems like it's just a really smart money move here for this company to get in on the ground floor of what Unity's doing. Obviously, take it in a direction, open up Unity not only to maybe mobile platforms here, but maybe to other industries, other areas on all different types of digital platforms, whatever it may be. I do think that this is a very interesting move. It's something, again, I don't have a lot of, foresight on. We'll have to see exactly how this plays out. But I do think that if this deal is accepted, if this does go through, again, this isn't finalized here. If this deal does go through, this could be very interesting here to see Unity in new ownership. Again, not much else to cover there, not much else to ponder on, but exactly how Unity will be implemented. But I think even if I didn't hear that story, I would be of the team that would assume Unity is going to continue to grow and continue to be used in a lot more incredible ways. We've seen similar things, not just Unity, but with Unreal Engine as well and other game development engines that have been used, again, like I said, for virtual effects, for movies, for other things that have made other processes, for animation, things that are so much more difficult in the past or have been so much more difficult to do in the past can now be done way easier, with things that other industries always assume was reserved just for gaming. But it's, I think anything, being built in this computer simulation type setting. Again, there's a lot of potential there for a lot of interesting stuff. I do want to move on here to something very quick and interesting. We did get some news on another mod this week. So this is kind of another one of our fun stories. We did hear, I'll pull up this article headline here, another story from IGN. Shout out to IGN and GameSpot as always for getting a lot of our articles here for the visuals. But we saw that somebody had added a Shadow of Mordor Nemesis system to Skyrim. So we've talked a lot about both Shadow of Mordor and Skyrim on the channel. So I thought this was kind of relevant, something I'd want to bring up on the show this week. So obviously Skyrim is the kind of the everlasting title here. It's always being modded. It's always being, some new announcements always being added on. I feel like we're talking about Skyrim almost every week on this show. But this is a new mod here that adds a completely new gameplay element. If you may have heard of this Nemesis system from Shadow of Mordor, we've talked about it in the past. Where basically, if you fight an enemy or lose to that enemy, rather, they become one of your Nemesis that you have to go and fight again. So as we see here, I'm not sure if this is going to play through here on any of the gameplay or video here, but we do have this link on Nexus Mods here. So I'll just pull up the mod page on Nexus Mods because they do have some screenshots here. But how this works is essentially once you fight an enemy in Skyrim, and again, there's a ton of options you could set here to manipulate this process a bit. You may win, you may lose. If you lose, that enemy is now set as one of your nemesises, and you can go back into the world, realize this nemesis is not only more powerful now, maybe has learned from the last fight, but may even come looking for you and trying to fight you again. So you can see here throughout some of the settings here for the mod. But that being said, it is pretty cool to see here another game's full gameplay system, really a full gameplay mechanic from Shadow of Mordor being ported into Skyrim. So just again, kind of a quick story there. Not much else to cover on that story either. I just wanted to throw that in there as it's been again, as you can see, a bit of a short news week in terms of the big stories. Again, other than that acquisition there and some delays, but we're gonna be wrapping up the show here. I have a few more small things to share with you all here today. We do have some extra links here I want to get rid of so I could show you, and I'll pull this last story up. This one I would argue is maybe, again, not necessarily anything new, but pretty interesting here for a final story. So this comes directly from GameSpot as well. And again, this comes from the Microsoft reports we've gotten from Brazil in the past few weeks. But Microsoft claims here that Sony has been paying blocking rights to stop games appearing on Game Pass. So getting into this, as I said earlier, we did get a report a few weeks back. I believe this was in lieu of the Microsoft Activision acquisition from Brazil. So in Brazil, they have a national competition regulator where they go through multiple interviews with these large companies to make sure there are no monopolistic practices going on. As you can see here, fair competition, that kind of that kind of thing here. I'm not obviously not super aware on exactly how their legal system works here, in comparison to the American legal system. But again, apparently here Microsoft was had to be on almost, I would say on trial here almost. I'm not sure exactly how this report came out, but a report came out, with a lot of questions asked from the Brazilian government towards Microsoft and a lot of ways regarding their business, how they go about game releases and their business model. And that being said, they also had to ask Sony some questions in terms of how they deal with that and their differing views there. So throughout this process, we have gotten a lot of quotables here, if you will, from both of these companies that have kind of highlighted a lot of their differences in approach, things that we talked about a lot in the industry for sure, but with things like Game Pass versus, PlayStation in the past not being as willing to start a subscription-based type model. So today, we got even more news from this report to get back into it, that Microsoft has claimed here that not only does Sony not like when they get these exclusive deals in Game Pass and are not happy about things like Call of Duty and other exclusive deals with Activision, as we reported last week, they also go out of their way to, and again, this is hypothetical, this is coming from Microsoft, so I'll take this as you will, that they go out of their way to pay money to developers, to publishers, whoever is trying to get this game out on a platform, to not put their game on Game Pass. So not just pay for games to have exclusive rights on PlayStation or to have certain marketing deals, but in certain clauses of these contracts, Microsoft asserts that they know that Sony has explicitly included barriers in these contracts that have the publishers or developers here agree to never put this game on Game Pass, maybe for a certain period of time, maybe never, maybe always on PlayStation. Again, I'm not sure of the details of the exact, contracts there, but this is something that Microsoft has said has been going on for a while, and that Microsoft's ability to continue to grow Game Pass and expand has been hampered by Sony's desire to inhibit such growth, which does make sense. So again, I'm not exactly sure, legally what you could say here, or how allowed this practice is. I do believe, at least under U.S. law, again, this is a Brazilian national competition regulator this comes from, but at least under U.S. law, at least as far as I'm concerned, I'm sure that if these developers are signing contracts, exclusivity deals saying we won't sign a deal with this other company, that is, allowed. There's no legal recourse that, could be taken on that action. That being said, it's obviously not a positive for Microsoft in many cases here, if that's what's going down. And it remains to be seen exactly how this will be dealt with, if this is seen as an unfair practice. Again, Brazil here is the one questioning this. I'm curious to see if in their country they will say that this is unfair or things need to be changed, because regardless of the country that states that, if any country, again, we talked a bit about this on the show a few weeks back with some other regulatory processes, but I think of believing with the iPhone as well. If any country, puts any limitations on something that could really affect the profit margins for the company in that country, they're probably in most cases going to abide by that in all the regions, for the sake of simplicity. We did talk about, as I brought up there a second ago, a few weeks ago with the iPhone, how they were switching potentially to USB-C. That's been something that Apple's been planning for a while, but the European Union Commission made a law basically stating that they have to switch to USB-C in the next year or two, or else they're not going to be able to sell their electronics. It's more of a pro-consumer law to enable them to not be using the old, hardware that they have been kind of forcing, to keep in these modern phones. So again, a little bit of an analogy there, but similar a situation where I'm not sure if this is something that Brazil, limits on or comments on after this whole process is over. This may be something that Microsoft or Sony even has to change in some way going forward in America, in the Europe, in Asia, and all their regions. But again, that remains to be seen. This is something that's obviously only affecting North American and South American region here, but we'll have to see how that goes down, how that really plays out here with this process. That being said, the knowledge that Microsoft may very well be, be at a disadvantage here if Sony is making these payments is a pretty interesting comment. We talk a lot about healthy competition here, about the parent companies here, how Microsoft, again, Xbox has a lot of backing there for Microsoft to be able to make these big money decisions, to be able to make these acquisitions that Sony, again, still a large company, but not like Microsoft large, may or may not be able to make. So it's not, I don't want to say it's in any way wrong for Microsoft to be concerned that Sony is making these money moves here to limit them, but it begs the question: can Microsoft pay more? We talk about the competition here. Is this fair competition? How to, we talk about monopoly. Are we approaching monopolistic tendencies here with a few large companies starting to own a lot of the bigger properties in all of gaming? The more and more that happens, the more these large publishers that do get eaten up by these bigger companies, that question becomes more and more relevant. But that being said, Microsoft is not in the position here as the one that is probably going to be outbought here or outsold. I think they're the ones that can come around with the money and say, what, we're going to make sure this happens because we have more money than Sony in this situation. And this is what's going to go down. Again, maybe I'm not sure exactly where the budget's at for Xbox. We've seen that Xbox, as well as many other game developers, I'm assuming Sony as well, but we haven't got the reports yet. But many of the reports we've gotten throughout the summer here have shown that gaming as a whole has been down. The profits haven't been the way they have been last year. Again, I want to take that with a grain of salt because last year, especially 2020 and 2021, again, the last 2 years, if you will, have been an insane boom for gaming. Obviously, a lot of other industries have been down or have been shaken up with COVID, but gaming was the one industry that really boomed. People were staying home. People were investing more in entertainment. The entertainment industry, again, we can talk about film and TV and all that another day with theaters and the like, but as far as staying home entertainment, gaming was right, set up there to be a booming market for a long time. And the main issue has been the shortages of hardware, of course, with the new consoles coming out in 2020, of all that's been surrounded with that, of graphics cards, of all the hardware that's, we basically haven't been able to meet the demand here. That being said, we reported I believe this was last week as well, that Switch is not meeting their demand. They are rushing to make more and more Nintendo Switches. Same thing with PlayStation, of course. I mean, I think it's been a story since launch there that they are rushing and rushing to make more and more PlayStations readily available as they keep selling out nonstop. I believe Xbox, again, is still in a path to make more, but I think Xbox is kind of the outlier here where it's not as tough to get an Xbox Series X. Again, I don't think that it's any indictment on the hardware itself, more so, the popularity of the PlayStation, Xbox's approach here, where you can get all their games on mobile, on PC, on a TV app now. It's coming with some more and more smart TVs. It's obviously a strategy that doesn't require you getting that box, and that was kind of the way I took it. That's why I have a PlayStation. And that's why I'm looking forward to probably playing a lot of Xbox games on PC in the near future and not have to buy both consoles. That being said, it makes sense why the demand wouldn't be as insane for the Series X, but we do know that there may be some losses as well. We heard in the past that not only are hardware sales suffering, but I believe just digital software sales, game sales in general. I think Microsoft's gaming revenue is not where it has been in the last year or two. So again, we did have a boom at the beginning of COVID, so I don't want to raise the alarm here and think that gaming is in trouble or anything of the like. Gaming was just at an insane peak recently, so to see a bit of a dip, is a bit to be expected, at least in my opinion. I think we're kind of leveling out here in terms of that, craze of stay-at-home entertainment boom there. I do think that things are leveling out a bit in terms of that kind of movement there. But that about wraps that up. I mean, I do, wonder to see how this whole, acquisition game, how this whole, change in philosophy between the two, Microsoft and Sony here, the two, behemoths of console gaming, does play out. This is something we talked about since the start of this generation, throughout the end, I'd say the last generation, about around when Xbox started to pivot a few years back. Phil Spencer came along. They started building the infrastructure for this, this new layout of gaming. And I do think that we're kind of in a transition period here. I say this a lot on the show. I feel like we really are in such a big transition for gaming here, where gaming is evolving into something bigger than it's ever been before. Whether that's for better or for worse in certain situations, I may say one or the other. We'll have to wait and see on a lot of the specifics here, but that kind of about wraps up the story for me, and in turn wraps up the show this week. Again, as you may have deciphered throughout the show here, not much of a news week at all this week. A lot of talking, a lot of one sentence comments like this last article here. A lot of things that were kind of pulled from different sources this week. But I did want to give you guys the lay of the land of everything going on with the latest and greatest in gaming. Again, we don't have much down the pipeline here. We do have that upcoming Xbox event, rather Call of Duty event, I should say, hosted by Activision and Call of Duty there later on in September. I believe September 15th. That's happening. We did get some news this week as well on Gamescom, and this is the last thing I want to cover because I'm realizing that we didn't get to this today. But Gamescom is coming right around the corner, actually. Bear with me as I pull this up. But we did get all the news about this earlier in the week. So Gamescom 2022 is, of course, as I said, happening in August here. They're saying expecting cool surprises, things you wouldn't expect. Of course, I'm hoping so. Again, we did get Summer Game Fest earlier from Jeff Keighley earlier this summer, and it was a little. I don't want to use the word lackluster, but it did leave a little to be desired here. There were some interesting announcements. That being said, they did get leaked beforehand, like the Last of Us announcement, like some of the remakes that we saw there and some of the remasters. So unfortunately, again, a lot of remasters, remakes, leaked remasters and remakes. Not much new gaming content on the horizon here when it came to that Summer Game Fest. So we're back. Jeff Keighley's back with Gamescom here. I believe August 23rd is when we're kicking this off here. So August 23rd. Again, I'm just looking through an article I quickly pulled up here. So I want to make sure I'm not giving you any useless information here on screen. But again, something to look forward to here later in the month. I'll probably be reporting on that, in a week or two here once we get through all of Gamescom's coverage and we see everything that's on the docket there and what needs, what's going to be reported. But as we can see here in the article, I'm continuing reading on myself here. Jeff Keighley reports that we'll have over 20 games reported on stage. It's going to be a big spectacle according to Keeley. And we have some very cool guests that are coming to Germany to join us on stage and reveal their games and showcase some new content. So we're going to get some game reveals. At least over 20 games. I'm not sure 20 new games, probably some existing there, but at least over 20 games on stage. And again, as Jeff Keighley says here, we have a mix of games that have already been announced and a fair number of new games announced as well. So again, something to be excited for later this month. We have some new announcements coming late August. So something to keep our eyes on and look forward to. As I said, we have that Call of Duty event in September. We also, this is not confirmed, this is totally up in the air, probably have a PlayStation event coming in September as well. We had their big State of Play event last year in September. I believe it may be a little different this time. We have the smaller State of Plays, prior to some releases. We did get one earlier this year for Horizon Forbidden West. That was about 20 or so minutes, came out a few weeks before that game launched. And then they were pretty quiet this summer. Obviously, we had The Last of Us news, as I just mentioned, at Summer Games Fest with Jeff Keighley, but no solo show from Sony, none of their own, announcements, no solo platform there like Xbox had and like some other developers, really showcased here. So we're waiting on Sony here. We're waiting on any news from that. That usually comes out like a week or two before that happens anyway. But September is the move there. So I'm curious we're going to see here. I was just talking about this with somebody recently. Are we just going to see God of War or more? I think we see more. I've heard, like, as I said before with Horizon, that maybe we'll just get one of those short ones. Maybe it'll be a God of War Ragnarok, gameplay demo, 10, 20 minutes, and one or two other things, and boom, happy 2022. That's it from Sony. But I don't think that's the case here. I really think they have a lot more to show. They haven't really gotten into their full catalog this year yet. And again, maybe we're feeling the heat of delays. We're feeling, like Microsoft has, having to delay almost everything to 2023 or later. Maybe they're a little hesitant to announce something that when they don't have an exact release date in mind yet. That being said, I really think this is a year where you don't just come out with God of War before release here and that's it. I think, again, we haven't seen much from that game, so it's definitely overdue. We've seen a very, very brief gameplay snippet. We saw that one or 2 minute trailer last year, and that's about it. We haven't seen much else other than that, like 20-second cinematic commercial we got a few weeks back with the release date, but I don't really count that as anything. That's just a cinematic. Again, a very cool cinematic, but it was a short cinematic, no gameplay, no game details. So, I'm still very hungry to see more of God of War Ragnarok as well. So that's the given for Sony this fall. That being said, I think, again, this is something I mention all the time. I think we see Spider-Man as well. That's a game that was announced for 2023. We don't know early or late 2023, but knowing Insomniac Games, seeing what they've done this generation already with Spider-Man Remastered, Miles Morales, and Ratchet and Clank all coming in the first year of PS5, they really seem to have, their plan together here and what they're doing. And I really think that that game is not, again, I'm going to knock on wood here. I don't want to jinx myself even saying this, but I don't think that game's going to be delayed to 2024. I don't even want to say that. I don't even want to put that into the existence here, but I do think they're a developer. I really would be surprised to see another really lengthy delay here. So that being said, there was no release date yet. They have plenty of time to work that out, work out the kinks there, and then get a solid release date. I would say fall 2023 wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. I would even imagine or argue that maybe they're aiming for early 2023 and they're waiting to see if they're going to delay it or not until later on in the year. That, again, I have no prior knowledge there or any insights to think that, other than just what they've done in the past, what I'm expecting, and how quickly I've seen them turn around on other projects. So very curious to see here what the Insomniac team is doing. I'm extremely excited for that game, as is probably clear. But we do have some other stuff from PlayStation that I hope we maybe get a hint at or hope we hear from. I know we've had that news about Jade Raymond Studio working with Mark Cerny as well, the PlayStation PS5 and PS4 architect there on a new game, and also working with cloud technology to integrate into the PlayStation. So something we also hear from Xbox's side of things with working with the cloud for hardware enhancements. But Sony is looking into that as well. They're looking to see how they can create a new type of game that may not be able to run with the processing power of just the console using the cloud. So very interesting stuff, very exciting there. As well as one I bring up a lot, Deviation Games is a studio I bring up a lot because we don't really know much about what they're doing. Once they were founded and acquired by Sony, I believe a year or two ago. It's been a while now since they announced that. And I believe they're making a first-person shooter. We haven't heard anything else about that. Obviously, I covered last week and earlier in the show here about Sony's concerns with Call of Duty, with Microsoft potentially having a monopoly. Microsoft has stated they're not they're in no way planning on releasing Call of Duty as an exclusive, just to Xbox and PC. I don't think that even sounds profitable to them. I think they realize that they want to keep a lot of those games multi-platform. That being said, Microsoft has exclusives as well. They're obviously very keen on having Starfield and a lot of Bethesda games and exclusive after that acquisition. And, we'll have to see exactly how this plays in here. But I think Sony comes back with this FPS game maybe as a competitor to that, to Call of Duty, to Microsoft's success, in the live service in the cloud area. You see a lot of Sony, responding here. You see them expanding PS Plus. You see them, announcing we're going to invest into over 10 live service projects that may or may not see the light of day, but we know a lot of live service projects are on the way. We know these, multiplayer projects are on the way. We see even another new IP being developed with Bungie on top of whatever's next for Destiny. And maybe that's another FPS as well. So a lot going on here with Sony. I'd be really remiss, to say that we don't see anything other than God of War. I think we see a lot more of what's coming on next year. And I also think we see a release date or at least some sort of clarification on PlayStation VR 2. Something we talk about a lot. They've been saying 2022 on it. We haven't heard anything else about it. I think we get that this fall. I think it's going to stay in for the holiday. Whether or not we get a ton of great game support on day one, we'll have to wait and see. But I'd be very shocked if we didn't hear more about that. So I'm thinking big, Sony event within the next few weeks here. Again, nothing's been announced, but I'm telling you guys, it's happening. I think for sure we're going to get something this September. Definitely more on PlayStation VR, more on God of War, hopefully more on Insomniac games and some what else is going on. Maybe Sucker Punch as well. They're pretty early on in their Ghost of Tsushima sequel, it seems. So maybe we'll see more from them. I don't know how long, their development cycle has been. I'm trying to think back to the Infamous series and everything before Ghost of Tsushima. That being a new IP makes me think that development process maybe was a little longer than the one we're going to get now after that game going into a sequel. I'm sure the development of the sequel is going to be much shorter than, creating an entire new IP from scratch. So, I'm not exactly sure there that, that's just a little card in the hat there that I might, think we will see. But that about wraps it up for my predictions, kind of closing up the show here, what we see next this fall. And, in turn, wraps up most of the show today. Like I said before, not too crazy on news this week. I did want to supplement a bit here with some things I've been thinking about, some things I've been seeing in the news that we've been talking about. But that about wraps it up for today. So we went the full hour, a little more than I expected. I'm always happy to be here on Friday talking about the gaming news, as you can tell. So really thankful for everyone who joined me today. Thank you for joining in the chat. If you did, if you have any other questions, comments, or anything like that, a future end of support, let me know. I'll make sure to be checking the chat here more so and talking to you guys as always. But I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And before I go, again, I know I'm always here with the extended outros. I'm always remembering there's one more thing. But I do want to remind you guys that we do have a nice docket of streams for next week. And this is actually our last week in the Endless Summer UAE. So I'm very sad to say that we're going to be saying goodbye to a lot of our UAE participants in our program here who have been working on these game dev teams. If you've been tuning in throughout the summer, you've seen some of the live development streams. They've talked about programming, art, game systems, 3D design. The list goes on. It's been really a pleasure to be streaming with them and to see all the incredible stuff they've created. But that being said, next week, again, is our last week. It's going to be our finale. I'm actually going to run off, since we don't have too many streams here, I'm going to run off the docket for you all real quick as I pull this up. So I do want to mention, this is again, like I said, it's our last week. We're going to do some special streams this week as well. So not only are we going to have our developer streams, we're going to have some more pro streams. So starting off the week, we have another of our kart racer streams over on Zoom, over on the webinar system with Gilligan. We'll send out that link in the Endless Discord for you all, as always. Then on 10 a.m., again, this is the other special new stream we have on 10 a.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m., I should say, Gulf Standard Time on Monday. We have the Endless Summer UAE art concept stream. So this stream is going to be a co-stream, actually, between all of our teams in the Endless Summer UAE. So hopefully we'll get someone from all four of our teams on these streams, and they could talk about, their various game projects, their, process throughout, how they worked on their art and the like here. So those will probably be a little bit more general. Everybody will have their own kind of perspective and their own processes and their own, methods for how they're working on their game. So that'll be hopefully a great discussion to get everybody in the same room here discussing their process. Then we go into more on Monday. We wrap up with Hollow Justice. They're going to get their finale stream. So I believe all of them, all their team members are going to meet up for that one. They're going to actually go through a play test of their first level, go through the whole first level, talk about everything that they built, check all their systems are working. And then they're going to, wrap everything up. They're going to talk about what else they're working on for the game, all of their vision, and kind of give a final goodbye on the stream there. Going into Tuesday, we have another one of those general co-streams. This one's going to be for coding, however. So the first one there on Monday, I said, was for art. We're going to have another one for programming, kind of engineering, the technical side of the games. Again, make it a little more general there, a little more broad as we want everybody to discuss their game-making process, really. So that's going to be really exciting as well. I'm really excited to see those co-stream discussions and to get these teams here to get to look at each other's games, maybe talk about each other's games as well, compare and contrast, and the process and what was difficult for them, what they enjoyed throughout the summer. Again, it's been really awesome to have everyone with us. That being said, moving on to Tuesday, Al Galoob team, they're gonna get their finale stream as well. Most of the team is expected there as well to give a summary of their experience of game development as well, their live stream experience at the summer, and again, a final goodbye there. Wrapping up here on Wednesday, we have another kart racer webinar stream with Gilligan in the morning there at 8 a.m. Eastern. So tune into that. And on Zoom, actually, we'll have that link in the Discord. And then finally, we have Kuthban. Their finale stream is going to be on Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. GST. And then at 9 p.m. GST, we have the Badria team for their finale stream. So the same as what I mentioned for all of these. The team's going to wrap up here, maybe look at their, some last setups in their game, talk about what they want to continue to add, all their progress they made over the summer, and kind of wrap everything up here for live streams. And then we'll have, the Endless Report on next Friday, as always, here at 1 p.m. Eastern or 9 p.m. Gulf Standard Time. But that will wrap up our endless summer. So you'll have to stay tuned for more stream news after next week. We will keep you posted on what comes next. But for now, I want to thank you all for tuning in this summer, across the summer. It's been amazing doing not only the Endless Report here, but all of those streams with our UAE teams. So I want to shout out to all you guys in the UAE who have been tuning in. Thank you so much for tuning into our streams, and to all of our teams as well. Thank you guys all for your hard work and your effort. Those streams have been really awesome. It's been a great summer here on YouTube with all these live streams. So thanks again to everyone who tuned in, and stay tuned with Endless Studios. We're going to have a lot more content coming towards you, a lot more game creating content, a lot more of what you'd expect here. So stay tuned. And I want to thank you all one last time here for tuning in, and have a great weekend. That wraps up the show. So I will see you guys for episode 22 of the Endless Report. Take care.